Karen and Damien, firstly, I would love to thank you for having the time for us today. I really appreciated your participation with People Helping People program under Access Link Consulting. So thank you for that. So firstly, I would just love to start to ask you if you could please share with us the origin story of Mylife Housing. How did you guys start and establish the organization? What inspired you? And also, how did the company evolve from its initial vision to where it is today?
I can start. So we had been living abroad for 12 years when I had a health scare in 2019, and I actually faced the prospect of potentially coming out of that surgery with having some disability. So when we relocated back to Sydney, we were trying to work out what we could do, and I was looking to do something. We were both looking to do something that actually, was a bit more fulfilling and helped to sort of change people's lives or just improve, what people with disability were going through. And so we started to explore the NDIS scheme, and I came across a property developer who had already started to explore SDA and had started to sort of build and design some interesting layouts and I guess communal areas for people with disability. And you could tell through conversations that we had with him that he was really passionate about that area of the scheme, and he was one of many developers that we kind of met along the way who actually were wanting to affect change and knew that some clever designs and designing with people with disability in mind from the beginning of a design project right through to the end could actually help improve the way that people access their homes, the buildings that they live in, and therefore give them a lot more freedom and independence to be able to live alone. And so that's, we kind of started Mylife Housing with that sort of sentiment. And your question about how has it evolved from our initial vision, I don't think we've strayed too far from our initial vision, and that was really to provide people with a disability a place that they're proud to call a home that they're proud to live in. And so we've sort of started in the Sydney Metro and Greater Sydney areas. We've predominantly focused on apartments and looking at designs from improved livability right through to high physical support. And recently we've gone into, we've sort of broadened our scope to Central West, where we've launched our first villa projects in Bathurst. So, and that's looking at the robust category, so a different design category to what we've been doing previously.
For the apartments being HVS.
Correct, so the apartments, yes. So we were doing a lot of only apartments for physical disabilities, and now we've ventured into robust accommodation, which has been actually an interesting eye-opener for both of us.
Huge learning curve.
Yeah.
No, beautiful start and beautiful story. And obviously I can see that, the philosophy of helping people is a fundamental core for Mylife Housing. Could you please share with us a story that a memorable story that where the philosophy of people helping people impacted someone's life or changed someone's life?
Yeah. So I guess as providers, we're not just really, you would think our role just starts and stops with getting someone in accommodation and then that's it. But we end up getting involved in a lot more, given the nature of, the people that we deal with. There's always other things that we tend to, come across or be involved in. So it could be that, we're dealing with their stakeholders and families to make sure that they're comfortable or that apartment or accommodation suits them. Sometimes we're having discussions with their psychologists, and sometimes we're just helping them work out how to make ends meet, in this living crisis that we're in. So there's lots of examples where we get feedback from residents saying, you've changed our lives, or you've helped us, you've made a home for us. And 2 examples that come to mind is one of them is we've placed siblings in one of our apartment blocks. We've placed them side by side, 2 adult siblings, in 2 apartments that share a balcony, also have balconies next to each other. So we've actually opened up the balcony so that they can actually share one communal balcony, which makes it a lot bigger, and so that when they're entertaining their parents, family or friends, they can actually enjoy a lot more outdoor space. So that was, that's really, I guess, improved the way that they live and the way that they actually can enjoy each other's company and connect more to each other and to their family. So that's been lovely to see. And another example is, I put a really lovely lady into one of our apartments, mid-20s, and, I went to visit her 2 months later just to check in and see how she was doing, and I noticed that there was no furniture in the apartment, no washing machine, nothing. It was just bare with a bed and a chair. And I realised that she had no money to buy anything else, and that was going to be it. And so we went back and spoke to some of the developers that we had already been working with, spoke to our SIL provider who we collaborate closely with, and we all sort of, raised some money, and we ended up, being able to give her a cheque for $6,000. And so the next time I was there, she was able to show me the washing machine and the sofa and the dining table, and that was
that's the core of helping people. So
yeah,
it goes beyond what you provide from SDA services.
It's not just the accommodation. It's and there's lots of different stories of I guess because we're there and you see it and you can't unsee it, and so you feel like, okay, there has to be another way, or between the stakeholders involved, we can try and do something to help. And she's forever grateful, and not that she was always very appreciative that she was able to have a home and did not dare ask for anything else. So that was it's why we do what we do.
And I know for a fact you guys, you go not one step ahead, but a few steps ahead beyond your services to help and assist people where you can. So definitely that's a very good cause you're running and you're doing here. You mentioned earlier that you had acquired, or let's say servicing, a project in Bathurst under robust design category. I believe that Mylife Housing is the first SDA provider to service and acquire a project in Bathurst under the new SDA design standards. So what was the intention for you getting there, and how do you see the future vision of expanding into Bathurst and other regional areas?
We're definitely very early with the villa model into Bathurst. It started really with heading out west. I travelled out to Lithgow initially, and we could see that there were people with disabilities that were living with ageing parents. The understanding of specialist disability accommodation and what that could do to change people's lives wasn't as well understood as in the city areas. And so I was just really moved by, first, the need for SDA, and secondly, just how early it was in a lot of the regional areas. And so it was really just a question of size. So Bathurst really started because we could get a reasonable lot size, above 1,000 square metres, close to the town centre. Whereas areas like Lithgow, it's a bit more challenging with the larger block sizes being a bit further away. And it started from there. Regions are not easy to start with, particularly when you're Sydney-based. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to earn the trust of people in the local community and to build awareness around what you do. So, one of the challenges of being early into the villa model in the region is a whole education process around what is SDA, how do you get it into your plans, and and then just showing them what that living looks like compared to their current environment, which is quite often, a retrofitted house that's not really fit for purpose. And we're hoping the Griffin Street site is the start of more in the area, because Central West definitely needs more product.
Yeah, so you reckon the area is in demand for SDA properties more? Yes. That's good to hear, and I hope you guys can expand and provide this beautiful assistance and service to other people that require help and assistance. You spoke and you hinted about the challenges there, about spreading awareness about SDA, and the service you provide, guys, and how people can accept certain things under the SDA and NDIS guidelines and regulations. What are, if you can share with us, some of the main challenges that can delay the SDA process for participants, and also how does Mylife Housing navigate and overcome these challenges?
So the SDA is a very small part of the NDIS scheme, and we all know that only 6% of people can access SDA funding. And so because it is such a small percentage of what the NDIS do, it's not very well known, and so it's very difficult to engage stakeholders that know about SDA. And even we find sometimes, when you call the NDIS to ask them things about SDA, sometimes the staff don't even know. So the challenge, I guess, arises from the fact that when you've got participants who have got SIL funding and they want to try and understand if they can get SDA funding, the first thing we tell them is to try and align themselves with support coordinators and allied health professionals, and especially an OT who understands SDA and who can help them write the reports and fill out the right forms to actually get that funding. So, one of the challenges is getting SDA funding, and that journey can take anything from, 3 months up to 18 months. So it's not an easy process, and we tend to find, and the advice we give to the participants is you need to have a lot of patience, and you need to align yourselves with support coordinators and people who are going to help you through that journey, because it's easy to just give up and say, you know what, it's too hard. What we tend to do is help along that journey. So we help the support coordinators. We make sure that the OTs know what to write in the plans, and we kind of make sure that we're in touch with the participant along the way to make sure that they're not losing hope or they're not losing patience. And in that time, we're also trying to find the right accommodation for them. And so another challenge that they face is that there may not be SDA where they want to live. And so there's a lot of areas of Sydney, as you would know, that just doesn't have SDA apartments. You're looking at east and northwest of Sydney do not have a lot of SDA.
Yep.
Inner west also is lacking. And so it's really hard to actually meet the demands of where they want to live. And so where we're trying to assist is actually to make sure that when we're looking at new projects, is that are we building in the right areas, and are we building where people want to live, and not just where it makes sense for us.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing this with us. Now, you know that Access Link Consulting worked hand in hand with you on a lot of projects that Mylife Housing is the SDA provider. How do you think that Access Link Consulting added value to you and your team, and how also we were managed, I think, to bring more value to the product that we're delivering, which is the SDA component? And did we manage to open your eyes on certain requirements or standards that you weren't aware of, and do you think it's very beneficial for you now to use it moving forward on the other projects?
Access Link has been critical in assisting us with the SDA process. Quite often when we engage with landowners, developers in the early stages, the first question we ask them is, have you engaged in SDA assessment yet? And what we love about Access Link is that we'll go above and beyond. But more importantly, what we're doing as a business, we're trying to be part of an open and collaborative network where we're sharing the lessons learned. And so from our perspective, we try to get the feedback coming from the participants. We want to ensure that the architects have an SDA assessor engaged early. The feedback that we share collaboratively creates better outcomes for the residents. Access Link, we just had it this morning, didn't we? We're working on a project currently in the design phase. We gave our first sets of comments, and the first reaction that we had was, we wish that the assessor was engaged earlier because critical things were missing. And I think now that we've done, nearly 6 projects together, Access Link and Mylife Housing, it's just so much easier when you get it right from the beginning. And you've been instrumental in that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Damien, for that. Definitely always pleasure working with you and your team. You always don't take it easy in terms of just applying the standards. You always go beyond that, taking not only 1 step, 2 steps ahead, and you always look forward to establish the best practice exercise. And it was demonstrated, as you said, in our meeting this morning, where not only the standards are applicable, but also you have, let's say, a wish list or in addition to the standards. And this is amazing to see that, SDA provider such as you guys have a special list to implement to the developer and builder, and navigating through them to convince them also to adopt this, because it's not easy to convince the developer and builder to add an additional 10 or 15 items above the standards, knowing that it's going to cost them more money and more time in documentation as well.
It's funny. You think that you're going to get things right, but it's amazing how we continually learn. And I feel like when we're in an environment together with an architect, with the builder, with the assessor, getting feedback from residents, support providers, occupational therapists have been really helpful in pointing out things that seem obvious after the fact. And when you bring that all together into the next project and take those lessons, then that's the key, I think.
Absolutely right. I agree with that. This will lead me to another question of, leads to the future of Mylife Housing and how you guys focus to enhance accessibility care, and also how do you envision your services evolving to meet the changing needs of participants?
Yeah. I think, to Damien's point, we want to foster a closer collaboration with everyone involved in the design phase. And I think what's key is that if we get the participants in that conversation and they're at the table, we're also getting first-hand insights and learnings from the people that actually use the apartments and, live in these. Because like you said, sometimes meeting the guidelines is not always practical. We need to implement so many other changes. And sometimes it can be as simple as, 2 doors not opening into each other. Now, on the plan, you don't realise that it is that until it actually is built. And when you see a participant move through in their wheelchair in the turning circles, you really do see that these things have to be, you always have to test drive through this with the participant to be able to see how our vision translates into their final home. And so, as we sort of take on more projects, we really want, the participants' involvement. We want to make sure that architects know who they're designing for. And I think the result of that is that you end up with these well thought through spaces, and not just their homes, but the communal spaces that we design in the buildings around it, understand why we need these communal spaces, how they're going to be used, and how they're going to improve this, the social lives of our residents. Also in the future, we're looking at sort of what do, the types of dwellings that residents are actually looking to live in or looking for but don't exist. There's a lot of demand for, villas as well as 2 and 3 bedroom residents. Not everybody wants to live in an apartment. Apartment living is not for everyone. And so trying to look at other dwellings that, may or may not generate as much SDA as a HPS apartment, but can actually meet the needs of those that require that type of dwelling. And then trying as well to build in areas where there's demand, so that we're not saturating a couple of suburbs in Sydney and sort of leaving others demands unmet. So I think that's in a nutshell.
I think the Navali project's a really good example.
Yes.
When we first started looking at common areas, we were just looking at spaces that already existed in a dwelling. But then if you look at Navali as a project, and you see 8 separate common areas, dog playground, table tennis area, media room, and you start to think about a building as inclusive for people with disabilities, as opposed to like the 10 units that might be in the typical apartment model.
Yep.
I think that's what really changes the game.
The amenities provided, Timmy, the amenities, services around it as well. And then you have, I think, a coffee shop or amenities underneath in terms of from retail and commercial
That's right.
areas around the same development, I believe, yeah.
Giving the opportunity for everyone to be included, whether there's an affordable housing component in the building, whether there is NDIS units, making it feel homogenous so that, all members of society are considered equal in their rights to the dwelling, I think is super critical.
And making it accessible throughout, so that no area is inaccessible for anyone. So they should be able to access all communal areas.
Right.
And that's what we ensure as well when we come to the design stages, early design stages, even if we came late to the coordination phase, let's say, with the architect and the developer want to implement SDA properties, we ensure that all communal open spaces are accessible. Also all facilities related to it also accessible, to ensure and enhance the inclusive design plus the amenities to everyone there.
Mm-hmm.
You know yourself that this environment and this industry in general is an evolving industry that has a lot of rules and requirements added on a, let's say, weekly or monthly basis, or a certain time frame. So what sort of measures do you have in place to stay up to date with the latest information, with the latest rules that get published, and also what sort of methodology you follow to make sure that your team members and yourself are up to date with the latest implementations by STA or NDIS that is currently implemented?
As a smaller business, it is a challenge. And the way that we've handled it is by engaging third parties. So we have advisors that assist us in the day-to-day with our business, that keep abreast of all changes that are going on. And so we can tap those people on a needs basis. And we regularly have sessions with the team to share that information in regular occurrences. And there's a lot of timing around, regular timing around things. You know that changes happen around March, July, September. They're in intervals. And so we schedule those into our calendars through the year and just make sure that the team remains abreast with that. But I think the scale of the business of Mylife Housing at this point, if we were to try to do that on our own, we'd probably need a lot more resource than we currently have, just focused on compliance and changes with the NDIS.
No, it's a good thing that you have a third party as well assisting you, not only assisting you, overlooking the process, because they will add value. And also they will monitor the systems, they will monitor the procedures that will enhance a better outcome for you and everyone. Because you're not doing it only in-house, but you're relying on professions who has the knowledge and education to lift the business up, ensuring that the quality of your team members and the company is adhered to and always up to the standards.
Yeah, so that we're not operating in a bubble as well. And also the team members do attend all of the conferences, the disability conferences, and we do attend training programs that are put on by different organisations. So making sure that we're always getting up to speed on any changes or new platforms that the NDIS introduce, like PACE.
It's good to know. So how did Mylife Housing approach in providing SDA services evolved over time? And also, could you please tell us the key steps that you have taken enhance the impact of your services?
I mean, Mylife has consistently been an operator of SDA properties. This is our only service area in area of focus. I mean, we aim to learn and improve from each project. And we do this by treasuring lived experience with participants. And as we alluded to earlier, we feel like we have a really strong collaborative network, from architects through to access linkers and SDAs as occupational therapists, to make sure that we pass these learnings on and improve and evolve with that. And what we're learning is it's not about expense or doing fancy things. It's just about well thought through design that is validated through lived experience. And that's really been the way that we've evolved so far. Where we initially started as an apartment operator, and now we're expanding into villas. That's been a huge learning curve. Moving from a kind of what the industry calls as a salt and peppered approach, where disability is part of the general amenity, to something that is purpose-built. There's some interesting learnings there around how do you deliver something that someone still wants to call their home without it feeling like it's an institution.
Yep.
Then when you think of like a class 3 building, like what we've got at Bathurst at the moment, and the fire regulations, nurse call systems, how do you give people free access within a building and then not, have all of these challenges of them exiting the building?
Yeah.
They've been really huge learning curves. And so we're adamant, in Robust in particular, that we want this to still feel like it's someone's home. And we're avoiding, things that are standard practice that, makes it look like it's institutionalised.
The key point that I take from your answer is considering a place where they reside in is their home, which I believe we shared this story before where with participants that you guys told me about how impressed they were about the units you guys provided, or we assisted you in the certification process, design and as-built stages, and the delivery of that project with the developer that and the builder worked on was amazing in terms of the finishes, to the quality of the assistive tech provided, to the home automation and door automation and everything involved in it. So I believe that the feedback you received from participant was related to that this is our home and we will never leave there.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, as Karen constantly reminds me, we can put all the right ingredients in place to have a home, but really one of the key areas that cements it as a person's home is the provision of support.
Yeah. If
we get the ingredients right, and the support provider delivers, then you really have a place that someone can call home. And I think we've found that working in relation, collaborating with partners like Alara Support Services. But one of the early lessons that you learn is your support provider relationships are critical in ensuring that quality of service is there.
It's all components linked together to make that perfect and deliver the best service to participants.
That's right.
Damien and Karen, thank you so much for your time. It was absolutely a pleasure to see you today, talk to you and take us through the Mylife Housing story. And I'm really happy and grateful to work with you, delivering absolutely an amazing projects for people that looking to consider their home for future. thank you, and
Thank you, Rami.
No, likewise, Rami. We've been working together since day one. You know, your passion and your energy and the way that you go about what you do, it's admiring. We're so inspired by it.
You're the most stylish access consultant we've worked with.
He's the only access consultant I know that still wears loafers to the job site.
thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you.